We provide a 12-month software apprenticeship. And get picked up by a big tech company.
What Mike has built and what this team brings is it's AAA class.
And I thought, this is the model that we're going to grow Genus.
I would first look to contract out to creating coding careers where you're going to get experienced technology. The pipeline into your company for long-term growth.
So you're better off starting where you can groom and mentor and shape, people for your organization.
I've worked with coding teams for many years, and this was the first one that just picked up where we were and started continuing like they built it.
And we're happy to have them in the building and see what they're developing. This is the second location. They started out with us in our building in Escondido.
Creating Coding Careers has this incredible combination of subject matter expertise in the technology field and what is actually required to do the job, as well as this network of employer partners who believe in the mission on changing what technologists
I am so excited to be live. I think we might have broken the internet with that video bumper. We're going to have to play it back and see if it was smooth, but it was a little pause. So that's not on us. That's the interwebs. But I'm super excited to have these two phenomenal Salesforce experts in the room with us today. And as always, I'm going to hand things off to my fabulous co-host, Alex, and I'll let you kick it off.
Thank you, Mike. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alex Martinez from Creating Coding Careers, where we help aspiring developers transition into technology careers. So today we do have two subject matter experts that will be helping us better understand what is Salesforce and what career paths are available for all of us in the ecosystem. Our next hosts have amassed what seems to be pretty much every single Salesforce certificate that exists, at least from what I've seen in their LinkedIn profiles, so making them certified gurus. They're co-leaders of our local San Diego Salesforce user group. I'd like to give a big welcome to Kristi Pallack Brown and Tracy Hart. Welcome.
Thanks, Alex. Happy to be
here. So since Salesforce is new to all of us, I would like to just start off at the beginning. Like, what is Salesforce? If I'm a newbie, and I'm sure we have a lot of newbies in the audience, how would you describe what Salesforce is to someone who's just barely getting to learn it? Because when I first thought of it, you think of maybe it's just a digital Rolodex, but it's so much more than that, correct?
Yeah, I actually hate it when people ask me this question. It's like trying to explain to your mom what you do for a living. Oh my gosh. So Salesforce is, I'll just say, a huge platform of everything. It's got sales, service, marketing, commerce. You can run your website on it. You can run communities on it, digital communities. Anything you can think of that helps accelerate your business, you can do on the Salesforce platform. And I think, and Tracy, jump in here. Salesforce also purchased Tableau. It purchased Slack. It purchased MuleSoft. So extending that Salesforce platform even more to business intelligence and just like communication and collaboration, and MuleSoft, which is an endpoint to endpoint platform. So really integrating anything. it's huge. I don't.
Yeah, I would say, Salesforce is a CRM tool, customer relationship management, and there are other competitors in the realm. What started as a purely sales tool has evolved, and every CRM besides Salesforce has continued to evolve to capture more of what businesses truly do, not just sales. And I think Salesforce is one of the tools that is the one to beat because it is evolving faster than the others. It's brought in what the service people do at a given company. It's looking at industry verticals, looking at manufacturing, healthcare, finances, looking at what those businesses do, and then supplying the needs for that business so that everybody within a company is working within Salesforce, getting their job done through Salesforce.
All right, I'm going to jump in here really quick. And I know Alex, I know a couple of questions I think he's going to ask. So I want to sort of shift just a little bit and talk at first about how you might, if you were talking to someone that was thinking about exploring early career pathways, how you might pitch the Salesforce ecosystem to that individual. Is like, no, this is really where you want to invest your time learning and upskilling because, and maybe give us a sense of some of the opportunities, what you're seeing like right in front of folks today, if they invest that time and energy to learn, how to really leverage this platform.
I would say I love this question. I would say that the magic of the Salesforce ecosystem doesn't necessarily come from the platform itself, but from the people, like all of us who are just nerding out all the time playing with the platform. I think that it is the most supportive and collaborative ecosystem I've ever been a part of. Everybody is always out there, raising their hand, offering it to you, helping you come up. So there's tons of learning opportunities, tons of educational resources, blogs, videos, YouTube channels, you name it. My 5-year-old in the background. The community is really what I think drives the whole ecosystem and just like the celebration of Salesforce.
I also think like Salesforce and the community in general, it's great for if you're wanting to break into tech. I came from a background, and I can only speak for myself here, that was not tech backed, but I had an interest in it and I wanted to be a part of it. And there are many kinds of communities, many different types of tech to go into that are not as welcoming versus Salesforce. I came in and it was, as Kristi said, there were hands, reached out to me. No question was stupid. And I was able to, start my learning path and really break into a truly technical career in the tech industry. And so I think like that's what sets it apart in many ways from other paths.
So I think you answered my next question, which is, tell us a little bit about your technical background and how you actually got into the Salesforce ecosystem. But I want to look at the Salesforce website. I'm actually going to drop this link in just a bit. I saw all the career paths that are available, and I'm looking at the first one. This is a Salesforce administrator, and it looks like they've changed it. They actually started putting, average salaries out there. So it looks like this is a quite lucrative community. It looks like if I'm just looking at the Salesforce administrator, it says median salary, $86,000. Salesforce developer, $120,000. I'd like to know, like, where do you usually start out when you're breaking into the ecosystem? I can imagine it's a Salesforce administrator. Is that about right? And then you kind of like branch off into these other roles?
It depends, Alex. So I think there's a lot of different ways to jump into the ecosystem. I'll just tell you a little bit about kind of my journey. So I used to do something totally different. I did youth development. I worked with the Girl Scouts for about 10 years and then moved here to San Diego following my husband in the Navy and had to change careers. I started working as actually a project manager, and that's really how I got into the Salesforce ecosystem. We started managing projects that were implementing Salesforce. And so I had to learn more about it, fell in love with it. So I kind of entered through that project management pathway, which is totally a valid pathway. Everybody has Salesforce projects, needs people to manage them. I went from there to more of like a business analyst role to then that administrator role where I'm getting more hands-on configuration with the platform, to more of like a I don't want to say a developer, but like an admin developer, where I was doing configuration, but a little bit of, coding in the background. From there, I got into being more of a data architect. So there's a lot of code involved in that, just from like a SQL background, um, and BI tools. And from there, I've grown into, a solution architect. I work as a consultant now, helping other customers implement their Salesforce orgs. So there's lots of different pathways and kind of different entry points. I think even in just like the developer pathway, if you click on that one on Trailhead that just popped up there, there's like 12 different certifications for just a Salesforce developer that you could click on, which could be like a JavaScript developer or an OmniScript developer or a marketing developer or this cloud or that cloud developer. There's so many different pathways in, and even more to grow from there.
I would say my path has been more of the traditional admin route that the career path shows you on the Salesforce website. I am one of those stories that is very common in the Salesforce ecosystem, where we call ourselves accidental admins, meaning my company purchased Salesforce and I started as an end user. I came from an operations background, logistics, shipping, that kind of stuff, and we were using Salesforce, and I became just enthralled with what it could do and to just improve my job at the time. And that started me on this path of self-learning, finding Trailhead, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute, and finding the community and seeking out my answers, and then starting to build and understand my knowledge from there. I've been in this ecosystem for 10 years now, and I would still describe myself as an administrator. I'm now a manager, but my career path has just, moved from accidental admin to solo admin to advanced admin to admin of an enterprise team to a senior admin to now managing a team. And so I can do all of those things within the Salesforce community. And, that's not even branching into the other paths there are when it comes to architecture or, product specific specialties. So that's really cool too.
So many of our apprentices, and pre-apprentices, of course, their interest is on the developer side. So here we teach people the HTML, CSS, and vanilla JavaScript, and then after that we go into the MERN stack. So it sounded like, Kristi, you're mentioning that there is a role, there's a space for you to go if you already have a JavaScript background. So you could become a developer and maybe actually use the skills that you developed, with JavaScript. Beyond just getting the cert, so the developer cert, I guess, what other things would you recommend as far as either like training to get to a developer type role using JavaScript?
Yeah, so definitely the different certifications. There's lots of different programs. There's a cool YouTube channel called Apex Hours that you should check out, that goes through kind of the whole Salesforce development cycle and everything that you need to know. And it's also a community, so you get to know other developers in the area. I would definitely go through Trailhead and see what types of development work you will be doing, and then jump on like a LinkedIn or something and just I like to follow hashtag Trailblazer community or just hashtag Salesforce, just to see what other people are doing. Everybody will be posting about their projects and cool things that they've learned or built recently, and you can just kind of get a feel for what's out there and what people are doing, and just a better background about the platform itself.
And I will add to that in addition to like you searching the hashtags, especially around the developers sharing what they've built and learning from that, Stack Overflow, Reddit, and Discord have developer specific channels that are just a wealth of information and like get you started in like, what would I really be doing? And what can I like nerd out over?
I love nerding out. There's also, I can't see who's listening in, but if there's any women out there, there's specific programs. There's one called Rad Women that is specific to women and people identifying as women in the Salesforce ecosystem to teach them Apex and get them to be full-time Salesforce developers. So definitely check that out. If there's any girls out there.
Absolutely. So I'm looking at the website again. I see the Salesforce administrator, Salesforce developer, and they have all these other paths. So they got Salesforce consultant, architect, and I see even like a business analyst type role. I'm wondering, aside from certifications and experience, do people like backgrounds in business, maybe you have a degree in business, would that help them maybe get into a business analyst role or into a consultant role? Like what other skill sets would be needed to get into one of these other avenues?
100%. I tell people all the time, all these technical skills can be taught, but it's more like the soft skills that people are looking for that have to be kind of hard coded inside of you. I think that what I've noticed just in my career with Salesforce is that I'm always wearing multiple hats. So if I was a developer or if I was an admin or now in my role as an architect, I'm like gathering business requirements. I'm talking to tons of different stakeholders all the time. I'm creating documentation, I'm diagramming. So not just writing code or, building cool applications, but really taking on those other tasks as well. And I think that comes out more in smaller organizations where they don't necessarily have the funding to pay for a really large Salesforce team for their implementation. And so then you're definitely taking on more than one role, and those soft skills are going to really come into play.
Adding to that, the soft skill of mediator. I cannot overemphasize enough how much you'll need to be working with stakeholders across different departments or across different avenues and to build one solution. And so the ability to understand what a non-technical person is trying to convey to you and being able to not only repeat it back, but share that information with other stakeholders who will be affected by what you're building, and getting that kind of agreement is incredibly necessary. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself repeat building, starting from scratch and starting again. And it just creates a frustrating process for all involved.
That's the worst. I would say too that, in addition to the coding skills that you guys are bringing to the table already, you'll need to understand the declarative side of the platform as well, so that you can, when requirements come across your desk, you'll be able to know, do I need to put this in the code, or can I just click a few things and get the same job done? And just thinking about that in terms of scalability and technical debt and maintenance, maybe after you're out of that org and go somewhere else, or what the other members of your team are able to edit and maintain as well, being able to make those decisions. So having that more broad knowledge of the platform as a whole will be really important. I think too, on the developer side of things, it's important to understand kind of all the different parts of Salesforce. So you'll hear things like Sales Cloud and Service Cloud and B2B Commerce and Marketing Cloud, and all of these things kind of live independently but together. And so you really need to understand the relationship between all of these different data models, how they work together, so that when you are developing a solution, how your cards are being played. So I definitely think that there's more learning, but the coding skills you guys are bringing to the table is definitely a bonus at the beginning there.
Yeah, so speaking of coding skills, I actually got a chance to speak with you a few weeks ago, Kristi, and I know we were talking about JavaScript, and then you mentioned, it's not only important to understand JavaScript, but Salesforce has its own language, right? I think you mentioned, was it Apex? So you have to go above that, and you have to learn Apex. Like, what other beyond that? What other things should people wanting to get into the Salesforce ecosystem be learning aside from JavaScript, Apex? Like, what are some of these other skills they need to attain?
I think brushing up on just like JSON, SQL. Salesforce also has several other specific languages that that they've developed.
Sackwool.
Stockwool, yeah,
Software.
Sackwool, Stockwool. um, uh, there's another one, Saucel. so there's lots of different languages that Salesforce has developed itself. Um, that you'll come to know and love, and I don't think that it would be like a heavy lift by any means for you guys to adapt to them, with the coding skills you're bringing to the table, but there will be some learning there. And then you have to remember, what parts of the platform each of those languages is used for. So Salesforce core, like Sales and Service Cloud, are using Sockwool and Saucel sometimes in Apex. The kind of business intelligence platforms on top of that. So any of the like Einstein products that you look at, that's like artificial intelligence type stuff, uses Sackwool, which is the Salesforce Analytics query language. And you can also use SQL with those tools. The marketing tools, or like any of the financial services tools, use Omni Studio, which is very heavy, like JSON focused. And then you've got like your marketing tools where, you're using HTML and CSS. And what did I miss, Tracy?
I was just going to mention the HTML and CSS for the marketing clouds.
Yeah. There is like older development tools, visual force pages, which are still pretty prevalent in orgs, in Salesforce environments that have been around for a long time. So that's got its own language too. So there are a lot of different languages, but they're all super similar and easy to pick up if you've already got that like coding mentality.
So before meeting Kristi, I told her I was like super nervous because I was checking out her LinkedIn profile, and if you check it out, you see like all these certs kind of laid across the top, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this person really knows their stuff. And included in that is you have like 2 architect designations as well. So I'd love to hear, like, what does it take to become an architect? Obviously, this is something that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort to work yourself up to that level. But I'm assuming that's kind of like the apex in ServiceNow, kind of like that's the be all. Like once you have that designation, it sounds like you're able to architect your own solutions for clients solo, maybe. But I'd love to hear what that means and what it took to actually get that.
A lot of time and energy.
Yep.
So there are like several different ways these all fit together. So the first like official, I guess, architect certification I got was application architect, which is a little misleading because to get to application architect, you have to actually pass 3 other architect credentials. So I think it's like data architect, security or sharing and visibility architect, and something else. I don't remember. And so each one of those probably takes, I don't know, like a couple years of learning just to understand the platform enough to like start taking those exams. So there's like this pyramid, and Alex, maybe you can find it on the website when we show it. But so on the left side of this pyramid, there's like 6 certifications to get to application architect, and you're starting in admin. So admin, and then platform developer 1, which is what you guys will all be taking soon, and then platform app builder, and then the data architect, sharing and visibility, and then your application architect. On the other side of the pyramid is much more like developer heavy. So it starts with your, do you like my hand pyramid? It starts with your platform developer 1, your platform app builder, and then it goes pretty heavy into like application and deployment life cycles, integrations, and I think there's one more that I can't think of off the top of my head. And then you get system architect, and that's another exam. Oh, perfect. There's a link. click the architect path and it'll show you this pyramid. So that's like the basic architect pyramid. From there, there's a couple more designations. So you can do B2B solution architect, which is the route I went, which is people focused on, B2B companies who are doing B2B commerce, maybe marketing solutions, call center solutions, things like that. On the other side, then there's a B2C solution architect, which is working with, like the Adidas of the world and I don't know, that makeup company that I just thought of that I can't think of
Elf.
the name.
Elf.
Yes, people that are selling to people and what that customer experience looks like. So it's pretty heavy into like marketing cloud solutions, but really heavy development there. And then at the top of like end all be all architects is the certified technical architect. And to get that, you just have to have your application architect and your system architect. And then you can sit for your board exam. It's like $2,000 or $10,000, something that was a big range, but it's really expensive. It takes a lot of studying. I've never heard of anyone passing their boards the first time. It is reserved for like, the top 1% of Salesforce technical people. Um, Definitely something that people strive for. I don't know if that's something I want to do. Maybe we'll see. I'm 10 or 11 years in and probably just beginning my journey. There's so many things that I can still do before I get there. So um, there are lots of opportunities for architect status if that's something you're looking for. But then as an architect, there's lots of different things that you can do. There's like tons of different pathways in there too. So as an application architect, you can design solutions for, service apps or sales apps or customer engagement apps. There's also like little niche pathways you can go down, like being a data architect and just putting together the data models and vision for how data will be related to each other, how it will be reported on and actionable in the organization. So yeah, there's lots of different pathways, even as an architect. I will say that title brings with it some weight in the ecosystem. People put a lot of faith and trust in you. And so it is a lot of responsibility to hold that and make sure that you're doing, what's best for your customers and the platform itself.
Is it okay if we take a few questions from the crowd, from our audience?
Of course.
Okay, so we have Anna Davis. She's one of our apprentices, and Anna asks, given the rounds of tech layoffs, including of the main actual Salesforce company, according to recent media buzz, what are true prospects of a Salesforce career, either with Salesforce and its ecosystem?
I was expecting this question. That's something we had several meetings about today, actually. So it seems scary that Salesforce itself is having a lot of layoffs. They're doing some reorganizing, but that doesn't mean that there are any less companies using the Salesforce platform. All of those companies need people to run their software. I mean, if you do a LinkedIn search or an Indeed search right now, there are tons and tons of open jobs right now for Salesforce developers and Salesforce admins and architects and marketing people and all these different things. So I don't think that the job demand is going to go down at all. I do think that there might be some more competition to get those jobs. And so really being able to sell yourself and your personal brand and bring with you something to the table that other people don't have will be important.
And just to echo off of that, yeah, we haven't noticed like the jobs going away for our skill set. Salesforce is one of those things that it's become so ingrained in so many companies globally. It can't just be like, well, we're hitting dark days, so we're going to turn off Salesforce. It's required to get the business done. So therefore, our jobs are still required. I would say the only thing that's become even more competitive right now is those entry-level junior kinds of positions. And to Kristi's point, it's just about upping your brand and being present within the community that gets you that edge.
So that leads me into my next question. So how do we actually get into Salesforce? So I think Tracy mentioned the Trailblazer website, right?
Trailhead, yes.
Trailhead, I'm sorry. So Trailhead, my understanding is that the training seems to be free. Like what is that so like throughout the entire process? Because I was trying to, again, I'm familiar with ServiceNow, and ServiceNow has a cost for each one of their modules, and I couldn't find that for Salesforce. So is the entire curriculum free?
Pretty much.
Wow.
Pretty much with the exception of the specialty products. So Pardot, Marketing Cloud, stuff like that, CPQ, getting trained or self-training on those kinds of products is more challenging and definitely not free. But Salesforce itself, yeah, you go into Trailhead, you can spin up your own dev instance right now and start playing in it. And that is how my journey got started. That's how I started to self-train. How Kristi and I both still train in it today. She and I compete over how many badges we've earned. It's a tool and a learning system that keeps being added to.
Yeah, I would say so. There's like, I think over 10,000, I think, modules in Trailhead now that cover pretty much everything. Like Tracy said, for the more specific products, they will have free modules in there, but they'll be like very high level. And some of them might not come with the free like developer environments where you can just get in and start playing around. And so there is, I think if you click on the Learn button at the top of Trailhead, there's something called Trailhead Academy, and those are like the expert-led classes that do have a cost, and some of them are actually pretty pricey, like $1,500, $2,000. There are tons of classes though on other platforms as well, like Udemy. Tracy, what are some other ones I'm like
Focus
blanking?
on Salesforce, Ben.
Apex Hours has their own class too.
Apex Hours.
And these are
YouTube channels that you could also like just get started on, that understanding of what is Salesforce, and then those trainings, those channels are extensive as well.
For sure. I would definitely say start on Trailhead though with the free stuff. It'll get you super far, and probably it'll be enough to get your first certification even. And I think that the great thing about the Trailhead modules is that the bulk of them are hands-on. So you're not just reading documentation. You have to actually follow along a project in Salesforce in that like free playground org that they're giving you. And then you configure it, write your code, and they actually test your solution and see if it's right. They tell you what you did wrong so that you're actually getting hands-on learning, which is amazing that that's a free platform.
So I think you just answered my next question, which was, well, how do you get real world experience with a product? And it looks like it almost kind of forces you to do that. You're building apps as you're moving through the curriculum. Is that about right?
Yeah, exactly. There's even a module that will teach you how to create your own like portfolio on the platform. So
nice.
It lives and breathes on the platform. Then you can share that with prospective employers, showing like the different things that you've built out, which is really cool.
I have another question from the crowd, if that's okay. This is from Donald. Donald is one of our apprentices as well. He says, good afternoon. As a prior yeoman admin clerk in the Navy, I have some experience working with Salesforce as a CPPA. Will any of the certifications I've obtained help me in the Salesforce ecosystem?
Maybe. What is a CPPA?
Oh, I thought that was maybe something you guys would understand. I don't know myself. I'm assuming it's a military term then. So yeah, we have a skill-based program. So we have people that are exiting the military, and their last 6 months, they're starting to train with us. So they're learning all the basics again of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and they might go into the ServiceNow ecosystem or the Salesforce ecosystem. And so I think when I spoke to Donald right before this session, he did mention that he had some of the, I guess, preliminary certs. So I'm assuming it's kind of like the administrative cert. I would assume that's maybe the first one he got. I guess just with an admin cert, can you go out there and start applying for jobs? I think you two just started mentioning that it's definitely more competitive now. And so maybe not just having the cert is going to be enough. You definitely have to, I'm assuming, build something or build many things and show that you truly understand how to use it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't. So to be honest with you, when I got my first Salesforce jobs, I didn't have any certifications. It wasn't high on my list. It wasn't necessarily prioritized by the companies that were hiring me. So I don't necessarily think it's the certification that's going to get you the job. I think it's the way you're able to communicate how the platform is going to help solve business needs. So I expect that from your Navy experience, you have lots of stories you can tell about how, thing A solves thing B, and just being able to communicate that is going to be everything. There are some people that just go out and in 6 months, get 15 certifications, but if they've never worked in the industry, and don't know anything about business, then how does that really help a company, So
I will say that when I'm hiring, like the certifications definitely hold their importance, but when we are hiring for developers, let's just say that person comes to us with one cert, but coding knowledge, I treat that very, very, very seriously. And that becomes a top contender because you're showing that you have coding knowledge. I already know the languages in Salesforce. I know it's a sister language to what your skill set is. And you've taken the step to say, hey, I also understand Salesforce. So I'm not going to come in here and steamroll with a bunch of code. I understand like the effects that would have. And so those are our top contenders when we're taking job applicants.
So my next question would be, how can you start networking in the Salesforce ecosystem? And I think there's like a perfect lead-in for the user group that you both are working with or leading. Can you tell us a little bit more about that user group that you have in San Diego? I'm sorry. Yeah, the user group.
Yeah.
So
right we lead the Salesforce San Diego user group. We meet virtually once a month, and it's people. I mean, since it's virtually, we have people joining from all over. Honestly, like from the UK even. But we meet and just talk about different topics. It's usually Tracy and I presenting on something, so it's like an educational opportunity and then networking. But it would give you the opportunity to meet other people working in the Salesforce ecosystem as developers or admins or people just looking for jobs, people who are interested, students. We've got lots of different people. I think in addition to coming to our user group, I think Twitter and LinkedIn. Tracy mentioned Reddit. There's a huge Salesforce following on Reddit. I don't personally use Reddit. But just starting with like a hashtag Salesforce will get you really far, and just see what other people are talking about. Introduce yourself, make some connections, or you can be like one of those silent stalkers, where you're just like Tracy. That's what Tracy does, where you're just seeing what other people are doing, not necessarily putting yourself out there yet until you feel comfortable and see what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, and with the Trailblazer community groups, like obviously we will plug our own, but one of the cool things that has resulted from the pandemic is all these user groups globally meet virtually on some cadence. And so going to the website and just looking up other developer user groups, and if they're virtual, go to them. Like nothing's going to stop you. There's no gate that says, oh, because you're not in our specific geolocation, you can't come and learn. And that also opens up your eyes as well. I will also say in Trailhead, there's our community where we ask questions, pose problems. When you have a question, ask the community. You are going to see so many people weigh in, try and help you on your topic, try and coach you through, and that's how you can make connections too.
For sure. I will say that there are also, so our user group is pretty generic. I would say we kind of cover a little bit of everything. There are specific Salesforce developer user groups. There is one here in San Diego, but they're not very active anymore. But if you just do the first part of that domain, trailblazercommunitygroups.com, and just do like find a group, like Tracy said, you can join any developer group anywhere. And there's a lot of really great, super active ones that put out lots of good content, and and I'll get you connected
I'm a
with the
member
right
of the
people.
one in Austin, Texas. It's great.
Perfect.
So for those of us who are interested, and we're going to go ahead and take the plunge and start following the Salesforce career path, what are some of the common challenges that you should be ready for the newbies coming in?
Oh man, I would say don't burn yourself out. Like we said, there's a lot of content, there's a lot of webinars, there's a lot of marketing. Don't feel like you have to do everything all at once. Like as soon as you start following some of those hashtags, you're gonna, see people who are like, I'm getting a new certification every week. I did this, I did that, and it's like kind of overwhelming sometimes. So just like make sure you set a goal for yourself and some sort of pace that you can realistically stick with and and just do that. Just sometimes you have to drown out the noise because there are a lot of us and we're like giant Salesforce nerds and we post pictures of our stickers and our plushies and Salesforce can seem kind of like a cult sometimes. So you have to try not to get overwhelmed. But we're also super fun and helpful people. So
And then, with not getting overwhelmed, there's also the opposite of like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I would recommend for that, if you still want to try, in Trailhead, there are, we talk about specific modules. Salesforce has cute terminology for everything. There's modules, there's trails, there's trail mixes. Look up projects, because those specific projects are like build a battle station app or build a lemonade stand. And going through those projects with the mindset of, okay, if I build this, how can I build it in another way that makes sense for me in my everyday life? Because like I said, you're going to have this dev org that's for your use case. I have a dev org that organizes my family's like finances and our home projects. And that was, ways to get my brain wrapped around some concepts where I thought it was boring or that times I thought it was just too tough. So try and make it personal for you when you're on this journey.
I would also say look for the parts of Salesforce that you already have experience in. So Donald, you're coming out of the Navy, maybe you start looking at the government cloud stuff because you already speak that language. Or if you were in the education space, there's an education cloud and you already speak that language. And it would be easier for you to talk to employers about that experience. There are so many different pathways and skills that you guys already have that are totally relevant. So just do some exploring around the site, see what fits already. And, as long as you like that industry, then start tackling those modules. But if you're looking for something different, that's there too.
So any final words for all of us, for all the newbies coming in? For instance, if you were to travel back in time and talk to your formal selves back when you started the Salesforce ecosystem, what would you tell yourself to do differently?
Ooh. I don't know. I think I would take my own advice that I just said, honestly, is don't do everything all at once. I'm one of those people where I like to know everything and be like super well-rounded on every product that's ever put in front of me. But you don't have to be that because there's lots of people in the ecosystem with different specializations. So just like pick what you're interested in and go down that path and see where it leads you.
I would tell myself, especially with getting networking within the community, there are absolutely no stupid questions. There were times in my early career where I felt like I couldn't ask something and I waited and sat on it and learned it so long after the fact when somebody who was braver than me asked the question. So even if you feel silly trying to find the answer and feel like it's too embarrassing to ask in a public way, know that the question's been asked a million times before and nothing is stupid in this community. We all love the refresher and we all love teaching each other.
Great advice. Cheers. Thank you so much. Yep. So I'm getting from this is don't overwhelm yourself, get out there and network. And of course, first and foremost, go out there and build something, right? Actually use it and actually show people that you can do something with it. Ladies, thank you so much for spending your Friday with us. I really appreciate it. For all those who are still here, we will be seeing you guys next Friday, 3:00 on our LinkedIn Live platform. Thank you, Kristi. Thank you, Tracy. I dropped both of your LinkedIn URLs down below, so you guys can go ahead and reach out to them and connect, and hope to see you guys at the next Salesforce San Diego group meetup. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Have a great weekend. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.